talking HB 667, which would establish a Shreveport Redevelopment Board authority. Where does the original funding for the Redevelopment Authority, where will that come from? You've got the board. Let's assume that some sort of compromise is reached and the Redevelopment Authority is established.
Right.
The purpose is to upgrade, to take blighted, unowned properties and to refurbish them to some degree and then put them up for sale or auction. Which is that?
Correct.
Or both?
Well, in East Baton Rouge and New Orleans, they do both. They either direct sale or they auction or they...
Is the purpose of the Redevelopment Authority to make money for the city or just to...
It is to get properties that are not contributing to the tax base to start being contributing tax properties back on the tax rolls.
Do the redevelopment authorities across the state, are they operating at a loss?
I think East Baton Rouge Parish has had some challenges. However, New Orleans has shown some success.
Right.
But
So
this is not a money-making deal.
So it's losing money.
It's not losing money, but they're not sitting there with a huge reserve in the bank.
So why is this something that the city council can't just do?
Well, the city council could do it, but what local government has had a focus on doing is basic essential services. Police, fire, streets, drainage. When you start talking about special development, unique development, that's why you have a downtown development authority to focus specifically. They wake up every day with the focus of how do we make downtown better? And this is a similar concept. How do we make the urban inner core that is... We've had challenges in those areas. We've sprawled this city to a point where we can't afford the infrastructure that we're doing. And so they have that board would have a specific focus of focusing on the inner core, what we call in the master plan, the donut hole. And this is all, again, chapters 11 and 12 of the citizen-led, citizen-driven Shreveport Caddo 2030 master plan.
Would you have an issue if we change the legislation thusly? If you said this authority could recommend calling an election and the city council would then say yay or nay. They couldn't change it. They could just say, okay, yay, we agree with you, or nay, we don't. That may be a compromise that some of us who are worried about unelected people calling an election, that troubles us.
I would agree to it if we put the same provisions in for every other authority or independent board that has the ability to call their a tax election. So if we put it in for the Downtown Development Authority, if you put it in for Biomed, if you put it in for the port, if you put it in for the Red River Waterway Commission, all of these other entities that have similar authorities as being proposed, I would definitely agree.
Do you think that 5 members, as the Glover bill is written, do you think that 5 members is too few?
I think 5 may be cutting it short. The original bill that we put out in 2015 had 7, either 7 or 8.
Let me rephrase the question. Do you think that if 5 is conceivably too few, do you think giving the mayor of Shreveport the power to appoint the majority is a bad idea?
Well, here's where I am. Usually when it comes to the makeup of the board, I'm usually the most flexible there. So, how you make it up, who's on it, those are terms that can be flexible. And so, if somebody went to Representative Glover, as opposed to just saying, I'm opposed to the bill, just say, hey, here's an issue. This membership is too few. And it seems too narrow. But don't just say I'm opposed to the bill, especially when you voted for the bill in 2014.
And you're talking about Alan Seabaugh voted for the bill?
Seabaugh, Carmody, all of them voted for House Bill.
The one in Lafayette?
The one in Lafayette. And I'm sitting here looking at it now. They voted to establish the one in Lafayette.
I own property in Shreveport, okay? A lot of the tax elections in Shreveport, a lot of them, the 60% of our community, if you look at the numbers, do not own property. And those people would be voting to increase my property taxes. That's something that I have an issue about, and we don't want to talk about that.
Who's to say that the board would levy a tax? It's an option. And that's what we focus, and that was the main talking point in 2015, is that is an option. It's not mandating that they assess a tax. It gives them the option to levy either a property tax, a sales tax, but they can also generate revenue through fees, development fees, impact fees, those kind of things. It doesn't necessarily have to be a tax.
The Glover bill also talks about the power to incur debt. Does that mean issue bonds? What exactly does that mean?
Correct. That, most quasi-governmental bodies have the ability to issue debt. Just, again, the library board, they have the ability to issue debt. They just built a new facility facility, beautiful facility out on Burt Coombs. They have the ability to go in and do it on debt.
So it's going to the Senate today or tomorrow.
Correct. And it would not be on the city's debt. It would not be on the parish's debt. They'd have their own.
What changes do you anticipate will be made as it goes to the Senate committee?
You know, I have not talked to Representative Glover or any of the individuals down in Baton Rouge. I just kind of gotten it put in the middle of the conversation that was had. Like I said, I just took offense to Representative Seaball's comments that he knew nothing about the bill when it came up in 2015.
By the way, did it start here? And did Shreveport go to Glover? Did Glover go to Shreveport? Did they meet?
Right. Well, originally when the bill was passed in 2015, it was gutted. And it was rendered ineffective. And if you're going to do redevelopment, you need to have a working board. And so a lot of the provisions were taken out. They're just basically you had a board of individuals.
Yeah, it's been around since 2015,
right,
but
to do nothing. Yeah. And that's why, because it is ineffective. And so
is it your fear that's going to happen again?
Well, you know, it could. It's a possibility. You never know. Time is running out on the legislature right now. And so hopefully there will be some compromise. Those guys will sit down and say, and maybe Representative Glover say, hey, you know, Representative Seabaugh, in 2014, you voted for House Bill 457. Representative Carmody, in 2009, you voted for House Bill 887, who by Taylor Barra, who's the Speaker of the House, authored the bill for New Iberia's redevelopment authority. So if this is bad public policy, why was it not bad public policy then? If it was bad public policy in 2017, why was it not bad public policy in 2014 and 2009?